talking about this little incident that happened in Virginia. I'm actually waiting for this video. There it is. It started, and we're live every way, I reckon. So, yeah, let's see what CNN had to say about it.
Situation as objectively as you can. I wonder if you felt like the president's words were strong enough.
Of course I didn't. Look, I don't like this president. Let me start with that. I do not like him. But when he does things well, I like to support him, and I like to say he does things well. Like when yesterday the White House put out a Venezuela. I thought it was a good and strong statement. Speech today was shameful. Here line. This was not many sides. One side. It is white supremacists trying to instill terror in the streets of America. What I saw last night was a Ku Klux Klan march without the hoods. It was a bunch of white supremacists holding torches against the Jewish religion, chanting out about white supremacy. And the president of the United States, because he does not want to antagonize anybody in his base, let us be clear, does not have the spine, does not have the leadership to call this by name. And that's painful. No, Ben, let me tell you this. He is more capable, Ben, I let you talk. Let me tell you this. He is more capable of calling out Mitch McConnell. Ben, a lot more capable of calling out his own attorney general. He's a lot more capable. In the last 24 hours, he has been calling out Mitch McConnell. But he doesn't have the spine or the guts to call out white supremacists committing domestic terrorism in America today. And I am not going to defend that. I don't care what party
I didn't ask
he
you
is.
to defend that. I asked you one question. Should the person who is driving the car into the crowd killing people or attempting to kill people, should that person also be condemned?
Absolutely. And he didn't
Okay,
do it.
then that would be considering both sides.
He started talking about trade
Hold on, Anna. Let me just make sure the facts are out there.
Not
hold on.
what happened with the plowing of the car.
Hold on. Regarding that car event, we are still waiting to find out exactly who may be under arrest in that incident, exactly who the victims were. But we do know that the crowd of people who were plowed into were the counter-protesters, the people who had come to speak out against the white supremacists who were holding this
That's what I'm
rally.
saying. Both sides today. The car should be condemned. The other people that were involved in the violence as well. Both sides today became violent. We see it on the video.
That's the issue here. We don't know that they were on different sides.
No, but listen, it is so, you can't say that this was white supremacists, and then what we saw were some brave people risking their lives and putting themselves in between white supremacists and that, and what they were doing. So we saw white supremacists initiate this action, try to bully those people, try to instill fear, and we saw brave people there in Charlottesville standing against them. You cannot equate both sides. This was not many sides. Today, it was not many sides. Today, it was white supremacists. And what the President of the United States said, by trying to deflate it as many sides, what he's trying to do is send a dog whistle to his base, to his supporters, that some of whom were in that protest.
Attention to what she said, because I just heard something that was pretty big over on wars, and this was coming from people that was on the ground there. I'll play this video in just a moment, but I want to say that George Soros and others have spent well over conservatively $100 billion funding radical minority groups. That's including Black Lives Matter and others. Then you have an event like this, an event that was probably in many ways staged, because according to this lady, she said that the protesters against the white nationalists were herded like cattle and forced to walk past Antifa and other white nationalist groups who were throwing urine and feces and chemicals and water balloons which burned their skin. And when you think about it, Virginia is a blue state. Every city throughout Virginia is blue. It's all their political officials are Democrats. So this kind of makes sense. Let's watch this video now.
Crimes on the Unite the Right attendees prior to this happening. So this is what happens. An injustice, and you have police and city officials deciding they're not going to protect the rights of people because they don't agree with their ideologies. I don't either, but I agree with the fact that these police officers took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, to protect free speech, to dispense equal protection under the law, and they did not do so. And then somebody decided to take the matter into their own hands and go out and commit a despicable act.
And who knows if that was staged? That whole thing looks suspicious as well. They've been caught staging stuff. But Millie, I totally agree with you. And we're looking at this. I watched hours and hours of footage. It's Antifa. It's the Soros folks attacking reporters that are even on their side.
Exactly.
And you were in the middle of this. Gavin's going to be joining us. He got hit right in the face. But, I mean, it's on tape where they attack you and go, F you, and, like, screw InfoWars and try to punch you. And it's just...
Oh, yeah. They were very aggressive toward us, and we kept having to run back into the Unite the Right rally side, but that was only because the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter were trying to physically assault us. They pepper sprayed my camera guy Gavin in the face, and I know you thought that was Gavin McInnes, but they have the same name. It's easy to mix.
Well, no, I didn't know. You were calling me saying they just got Gavin, and I knew he was going to go, but canceled because of the white supremacists that were going to be there, and I got all that. It's the live fog of war. We get stuff wrong, but
exactly.
What I'm saying is it shows just how crazy it is that they knew. You get there, they march you in, the press, everybody else, bystanders, they kettle you with the police, let Antifa come, declare an emergency, push you into them. The whole thing was scripted, which came out in Maryland, came out in D.C., came out in other cities, that Homeland Security under Obama was running and ordering the stand-downs, running it. I mean, this was him.
It was, and, the governor has ties to the Clintons, and this was definitely a trap. Even the way they had the little cattle gates set up, they had it so that the police were at the backs of the Unite the Right rally attendees, and as they were being pushed back and cornered by the Antifa, who literally brought coolers full of weapons and pepper spray and water balloons full of chemicals that burn your skin and urine and feces and pepper spray, then the police said, if you guys don't move forward and walk through the fence, we're going to arrest you and charge you with crimes. So they forced people to then dispense and walk through the Antifa, and the Antifa literally started chanting shame, shame, like in Game of Thrones, throwing things.
So there you have it, folks. She was on the ground. She was there. She witnessed the whole event. I don't know if you saw the video that I played earlier or not. I could probably find it. But I'll tell you, this is outrage. It really is. And, well, highly outrageous is what I meant to say. But yeah, it's just been a really long Sunday. I'm work today, as I got another week ahead of me starting to move. So, but anyways, let's see here. But yeah, this is what you get, folks, from the paid protesters, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, groups like that.
The images show
That's
this
what you
car
get.
speeding forward to plow right into the pedestrians, then backing up, hitting and speeding away. Brennan Gilmore recorded it all on his phone and uploaded it to his Twitter account, and Brennan joins me now. Brennan, pretty horrifying thing to witness, that's for sure. Take us through what you saw.
Yes, absolutely terrifying scene. Was filming actually a peaceful, nonviolent march of anti-racist protesters who were coming up a very narrow street. I was in the middle of the street myself filming them and heard from behind me the acceleration of a vehicle, spun around, and saw the vehicle in question barreling down a very narrow street with no traffic on it at a high rate of speed, clearly intent on doing damage and destruction to the crowd. Passed over a barrier and went down the street and accelerated hard as it barreled into the crowd, sending bodies flying.
Oh, God. Among the things you had publicly said yesterday via Twitter and elsewhere, let there be no confusion, this was deliberate terrorism. You stand by?
Absolutely. I don't know if the authorities here have used the word terrorism yet. There's a judicial process which will play out. But it was clearly perpetrated by one of these racist Nazis who came to Charlottesville to spread their vile ideology. Very clearly, there's no question of anyone who witnessed it that his intent was to cause a mass casualty incident, and it's a domestic terror incident as far as what I witnessed.
And Brennan, you must have felt frightened for your own safety. I mean, what was that like being there?
My immediate concern was to attend to the people who had gotten hit. A woman had collapsed in front of me. So after I stopped filming, I gave her first aid best that I could. The police were very quick on the scene. First responders were on the scene quite quickly as well. But it was a terrible situation, and my heart goes out to the family of, frankly, a martyr on the side of the anti-racists who gave her life fighting against this hatred and ideology.
This wasn't the only scene that you recorded that was horrible. You recorded fights breaking out in the crowd earlier in the day. So talk about police presence. What did you see in that regard?
There's a heavy police presence around town. I think this was the largest deployment of police in the area. There were fights around the central location before the state of emergency was declared. I was critical on Twitter about that, wondering why they didn't intervene. But let me be clear. I don't want to second guess the incredibly difficult job that the authorities had here yesterday when a federal judge granted permission to a group whose very existence is violent, is based on an ideology of hatred that wouldn't allow certain classes of people to have rights or to exist even. The legal authority let them come to a very compact, tight part of town. The police had a very difficult job to do. Once the state of emergency was declared, they moved in very quick to disperse these crowds. But these Nazis came to town with a very clear intent to cause harm. There's no question. They were awash with semi-automatic weapons, with shields, with helmets. They came here to spur violence, and that's what happened, and that's what we saw. And frankly, with the amount of weapons on the street here in Charlottesville, I'm surprised and thankful that it wasn't much worse.
Although, Brennan, you are on record as saying that you thought the police needed better training. Do you still stand by that in reflection today?
Look, I think this is something new for the police department here in Charlottesville. This is something new for a lot of us, and this is a wake-up call to a lot of people who aren't woken up to the type of violence that this racist ideology naturally leads to. Communities of color have been very aware of the threats of this, for many, many years. But a lot of other Americans have to realize that the natural conclusion of this type of ideology is violence.
All right, Brennan, a very sobering conversation with you. Thank you very much, though, for sharing your thoughts and that video, horrifying as it was. Brennan Gilmore, stay safe.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
Yeah, that was MSNBC right there. But this is what you get from allowing these types of groups to come into your cities and march. For one, you have extreme hate of many races on one side. Then on the other side, you have just ordinary people who's protesting against all this. And this allows them to play two groups off against each other automatically. I don't know no sound on this video. It just started playing as I was scrolling down. This is from CBS News.
Hi everyone, I'm Rena 9 and we're looking at pictures out of Charlottesville, Virginia. This is where violent clashes have broken out between white nationalists and counter-protests. Joining me on the phone right now to give us a sense of what's going on the ground is CBS News reporter Paula. Paula, these protests have really escalated today. What are you seeing and what can...
Rena, this is a very tense situation. 6 weeks ago, when the Ku Klux Klan, the fact that the city is trying to take down its statue, at that time there were about 1,000 counter-protesters and about 4. But today is a completely different situation. There are well over 1,000 people here representing several different groups. People just representing the Confederacy, you have people representing Black Lives, you have anti-fascist groups, and it has been somewhat violent. There has been tear gas being thrown. I don't know what you can see in your feed right now. Right now, there are water bottles being chucked at people left, right, sideways. We've seen several members of the press also assaulted. People covering their cameras, people spraying pepper spray in their face. So this is a very tense situation in this usually very sleepy college town of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Paula, what's slightly confusing, we're seeing some people with shields that usually the police have, shields and almost batons, but my understanding is I believe maybe more of the white nationalists using this gear. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen several groups using what appear to be their SWAT gear, but they're absolutely not the police. They're trade workers unions, or at least that's what they have on their shield. And you have some white nationalist groups that is wearing those white shields with the black duct tape across them. They also have helmets, again, things that kind of replicate police gear, but actually not being worn by the police. I will say that the police presence here is much lighter than it was for the KKK rally. It's not clear to me if that is by design. National Guard is here. There's a very heavy police presence. But telling you standing in the middle of this is not a safe situation for anyone.
Paula, the police knew that this was going to happen and that there was a chance this could get escalated. What were your plans? Have you heard anything more? Were there arrests been made yet?
Yes, we spoke with the mayor earlier today. He said there was an extensive rollout of the National Guard, of state police. They had a plan. One problem is that the city did not want to have this in this particular location because it is a very congested location to sort of set up the pens and alleyways that they would usually set up. I don't know if you can see this. There is some sort of gas or smoke being dispensed right now. Everyone is fleeing the scene. But again, this was not where they wanted to have this rally.
I wonder if that's maybe some sort of tear gas that the police are telling whether it's protesters dispensing that or police.
Again, it appears all of the things that have been dispensed so far, I have seen dispensed by protesters. I have not actually seen the police dispense pepper spray or tear gas or any of it. It's all actually been by the protesters themselves.
It's fascinating to hear you say that.
In this situation right now, we're sort of in the crowd, who is dispensing this? plowed.
We're looking at a live image right now coming out of Charlottesville, Virginia, of the police in green vests, suited up, racing into what appears to be likely the crowd there. Paula, tell me more about the police presence that you witnessed.
Again, I've been surprised that it hasn't been a larger police presence at the KKK rally 6 weeks ago, and we were here to cover that. There was probably about 5 police officers for every member of the KKK. But here, it'd probably take a small army to get up to that ratio. But again, there are people who are wearing what appear to be police attire, but they are not actually police. They are members of some of these groups wearing helmets, carrying shields, things like the actual police the barriers. They're certainly watching the situation, but it is a smaller police presence than what I would have anticipated.
Virginia State Police declared a local emergency in Charlottesville, Virginia. This is after violent protests broke out at what was supposed to be a white nationalist rally. The rally was planned in response to city officials' plans to take down a statue of General Robert E. Lee. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reed has been tracking this story from Charlottesville. Paula, this protest took place because
we're here in an increasingly tense situation here in Charlottesville, Virginia. They were expecting several thousand protesters, and they all showed up. But Rena, what we're seeing now is the police had vacated the premises. They said that this was not a safe situation, and they left. Now returned to the park. You can probably see them behind me, and they are attempting to clear the seats, and they're working to clear Emancipation Park. That is right over my shoulder. Now, most of the protesters have left the scene, but they're now right outside the park. So you're seeing a group of white nationalists, you're seeing Black Lives Matter, you have some history, all here in the same square. It is an increasingly tense situation, but right now the police are just trying to clear the area.
All right, Paula, please stay safe out there. We're going to continue to follow you throughout the day with the latest reports. Justice reporter Paula Reed. Joining me now on the phone to discuss further is Heidi Rick, the Director of Intelligence for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Heidi, we are seeing the escalation in many instances of what Paula is saying on the ground the past few hours. What are you most concerned about?
Well, obviously, some kind of full-scale violence, worse than what we've already seen already. There have been injuries and other problems, and I just hope that this doesn't escalate anymore.
Your organization has been monitoring this very closely, Heidi. How long was of this white nationalist movement, and why is it getting what feels like sort of renewed support?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the number of hate groups in this country have been rising for some time, and online activism is really huge in white supremacist circles. I'd say one of the main reasons that these folks feel so emboldened now has a lot to do with the Trump campaign and the new administration that they feel endorses their views. And they have moved from sort of online activism to real-world activism like we're seeing today in Charlottesville, the result of feeling empowered in this way.
Let me tell y'all something right now. The alt-right, as they call it, as Hillary Clinton created the term pre-2016 presidential election, and then associated Steve Bannon, Alex Jones, Matt Drudge, associated them with the alt-right. That's who elected Trump. That's not these white nationalist groups, okay? We are the new right, okay? There's a big difference between the alt-right and the new right, okay? And I'll show you right here how Paul Joseph Watson greatly summed this up yesterday.
The city of Charlottesville has declared an emergency.
We know that.
You're listening to the Alex Morgan Show on Freedom Internet Radio, so pro First and Second Amendment. The sound melts snowflakes on contact. As you can see here, it's been really busy. I can't find the actual tweet, but he pretty much summed up just what I told you about the alt-right and the new right. Yeah, we're day Americans, and they're hate groups, okay? I don't hate anybody. I don't even hate groups like that. What I do hate about them is they fund George Soros. That is plain, okay? And I apologize, my voice is on out. It usually does late at night. Anyway, yeah. You have George Soros and your Democratic controlled states and cities to thank for this incident. I'm very thankful Kentucky was a lot more violent than it. And I don't see how they're gonna delete the Civil War from our history. But that's what they're trying to do. That's what they've been trying to do for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years or so. Folks, if you want to call the show, you're more than welcome to. That number 323-693-3320. I would love to hear from y'all. Probably won't get to hear from y'all though, but that's okay. That number again, 323-693-3320. In the wake of Charlottesville protest, a Kentucky mayor wants to remove Confederate statues. This is from the Washington Post. Lexington, Kentucky Mayor Jim Gray doesn't have to watch footage of the violent protests in Charlottesville over the weekend to know how divisive Confederate monuments can be. At family reunions and holiday dinners his whole life, he has heard about his great uncles fighting each other in the Civil War Battle of Shiloh. Two were on the Union side, one fought for the Confederacy. Now the 63-year-old mayor, who is white, is embracing more controversy and potentially worse given the unrest in Charlottesville after he announced plans on Saturday to move two Confederate monuments from prominent places near a Lexington courthouse. Lexington is turning the Fayetteville courthouse into a center for visitors, complete with a restaurant, city space, and a bourbon bar. The $30 million renovation is part of the city's effort to position itself as a welcoming, progressive beacon of the New South. Gray said, standing in the way of that are two statues that honor Confederate leaders, and that many see as a symbol of racism and white supremacy. One statue honors John Hunt Morgan, the thunderbolt of the Confederacy. who owned a hemp factory and wool mill and organized the Independent Lexington Rifles Infantry Company in 1857. A few years later, the riflemen took up arms against the Union. At a nearby park, in a statue of John C. Breckinridge, a former U.S. Vice President who was kicked out of the Senate after he joined the Confederate Army. He served as the last Confederate Secretary of War. In Lexington, City Council and the Kentucky Military Heritage Commission give their approval. The statues will be placed in a nearby park honoring veterans, Gray said. Quote, "It's the right thing to do," end quote, he told the Washington Post on Sunday. Quote, "But doing it right is just as important," end quote. Gray conceded that even doing it right can have dangerous consequences. He announced the plans on the same day that one person was killed and many others were injured during protests sparked by Charlottesville's decision to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. 2 state police officers were killed when a helicopter, which state police said was on its way to help with the unrest in Charlottesville, crashed. According to the Post, Charlottesville leaders decided to remove the statue earlier this year, but it remains in Emancipation Park, a park that once bore Lee's name, pending judges' ruling. Protesters and counterparts donned compact gear. Some wore bicycle and motorcycle, carried sticks and clubs, and fought one another on. The worst violence came when someone barreled a 2010 Dodge Charger into crowds on a pedestrian mall, sending bodies flying, and then reversed at a high speed, hitting even more people. The alleged driver, James Alex Fields Jr., 20, had espoused Nazi ideas in high school, a former teacher told the Post. Fields was charged with second-degree murder, 3 counts of malicious wounding, and another count related to hit and run. Gray said Lexington would have to be prepared for high tensions even when similar protests. When it relocates its monuments. Quote, "As a mayor, you always must be prepared," end quote, he told the Post. He went on to say, "So we'll be prepared when the pushback for the challenge. But this is the right thing to do," end quote. Reference to the Confederacy runs deep in Lexington, Gray said, but so do slavery scars. Fayette County was one of the highest slave-holding counties in Kentucky, according to the Lexington Herald Leader, and the Squire Imperial's largest markets for buying and selling slaves. Of the 318,449 people who live in Fayette County, nearly 78% are white and 15% are black, according to the U.S. Census. The debate in Lexington has played out. Some see the statues as an occurrence part of the history record, monuments that should be protected for revisionist history. Others say the statues represent the sin of slavery and symbolize white supremacy. Anti-Confederate sentiment intensified after black churchgoers were killed on July 17, 2015 at 2015 at a church in Charleston, South Carolina, in a racially motivated massacre. The killer, Dylan Roof, was seen on one website holding a gun in one hand and a Confederate flag in another. The tragedy mobilized once hesitant southern cities to get rid of polarizing Civil War sanctuary. A few days after the Charlie painted, quote, Black Lives Matter on Morgan statue in front of the Lexington courthouse, Gray said afterwards that he couldn't condone the vandalism, quote, the time has come for us to reconsider our Confederate memorials, end quote. He began having conversations with people on both sides of the statue issue. On Sunday, he said he felt his city was ready to meet his, quote, test of our core values. There are those that respect history, as we should, but we are welcoming, caring, giving city which respects all people. This decision is about our aspirations of what Lexington can be, end quote. That's all that article. And he shows a picture of one of the statues in Lexington in front of the courthouse. It's going to be removed. I don't know, I don't see nothing there. We need to remember our history, and we need to know the truth about the Civil War too, though. Okay, the Civil War wasn't fought over slavery. It was fought over a number of things, actually. Slavery, I don't even know if slavery was really even considered. The South was trying to the Union, which they, I guess, really did. I would suggest that y'all do some research on that. There were several factors. Slavery was only a small detail, but they count on you being ignorant. They really do. I mean, look at Jonathan Gruber. Thank God you're so dumb. Huh?
Transparent financing, also transparent spending. I mean, this bill was written in a tortured way to make sure CBO did not score the mandate as taxes. If CBO, okay, so it's written to do that. In terms of risk-rated subsidies, if you had a law which said healthy people are going to pay in, it made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people would not have passed. Okay, just like the people, transparent, huge political advantage, and basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really critical to getting the thing to pass. And it's the second best argument. Look, I wish Mark was right, transparent, but I'd rather have this law. It's kind of like his.
Commented on this so far. Do you stand by the comments in that video?
The comment in the video at an academic conference, I was speeding off. You wrote John Terry came up with a great substitute. He said, look, what you economic nerds want to do for people who spend the health insurance and tax rate. What if 40% tax on the insurance companies that sell these terrible expensive health? He said, well, that's pretty much the same thing. So why does it matter? Because you'll see. And they were both in that tax. The Americans are too stupid to understand the difference. So basically, so I was speaking off the cuff. And the second message here arose, John Kerry. And John Kerry said, no, we're going to tax your health insurance. We're going to tax those evil insurance companies. We're going to impose a tax that if they sell health insurance that's too expensive, we're going to tax them. And conveniently, the tax rate will happen to be the marginal tax rate under the income tax code. basically, it's the same thing. We just tax the insurance companies. They pass it on higher prices. That offsets the tax break we get. It ends up being the same thing. It's a very clever, basically exploitation of the lack of economic understanding of the American voter. Okay.
Speaking off the cuff.
Yeah, thank God you're so dumb. Thank God you're so dumb. Not, we couldn't get rich off of you, so thank God you're so dumb.
Are you stupid?
I don't think so, no.
Does MIT employ stupid people?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so you're a smart man who said some, as the ranking member said, some really stupid things, and you said the same. Is that correct?
The comments I made were really inexcusable.
I thank you. We now go to Mr. Gowdy.
Professor Gruber, what did you mean when you said they proposed it and that passed because the American people are too stupid to understand the difference?
When I said that, I was at an academic conference being glib and quite frankly trying to make myself seem smart by insulting others.
Are you offering the venue as a defense for saying it or for meaning it?
I'm offering it as a defense for using appropriate and hurtful and inexcusable language to explain.
Well, what did you mean by too stupid to understand the difference?
Anything about it by it.
Well, you said it. You had to admit it.
Exactly what he said.
Live and trying to make myself seem smarter by reflecting.
Well, what did you mean when you said it was a very basic exploitation of the lack of economic understanding of the American voter? What do you mean by that?
Once again, it's another example of my inexcusable arrogance and trying to insult others to make myself seem smarter.
What did you mean when you said you wish that you had been able to be transparent, but you'd rather have the law than not?
Once again, it was my trying to conjecture about a political process in which I'm not an expert.
Well, what did you mean when you said it was written in a tortured way to make sure the CBO didn't score the mandate as a tax?
Once again, it was using inappropriate language to try to sound impressive about something to my colleagues.
You see a trend developing here, Professor Gruber?
I don't understand the question.
It's a lot of stupid quotes you've made. That's the trend.
A lot of inexcusable quotes.
Is that you're not a politician. The lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. Well, what is a non-politician to do in talking about political advantages?
A non-politician is talking about political advantages to try to make himself seem smarter by conjecturing about something he doesn't really know.
So you're a professor at MIT and you're worried about not looking smart enough?
Yes.
Well, you succeeded, if that was your goal. When did you realize that these comments are indefensible and inappropriate?
You succeeded.
I honestly didn't remember making them.
You didn't remember calling your fellow citizens stupid, and you didn't remember saying that you're the only person who cares about the uninsured, that the rest of your fellow citizens don't give a damn about the uninsured. You don't remember saying that?
I don't, because they were really glib and thoughtless comments that I made.
I didn't say that.
Well, Professor Gruber, let me just tell you what it looks like from this vantage point, is that you thought that they were really pithy and really funny until the video showed up. And then even then, it took you a little while to apologize. And what I'm struggling with is whether your apology is because you said it or because you meant it. Which are you apologizing for? Because you said it or because you meant it?
I didn't mean it. I'm apologizing.
All of these quotes that I just read to you, you didn't mean a single one of them. Not a one.
That I was using glib, thoughtless, and really inexcusable language.
You used them a lot. You used them a lot, Professor Gruber, which tends to undercut the notion that you were sorry for an episodic misstatement. I just read to you about 10. You see why people might possibly think the apology is a little disingenuous? Maybe. I yield back.
Oh, the gentleman yield me just 10 seconds. Following up on Mr. Gowdy, when you made these glib, inappropriate comments in an intellectual community, lots of other like-minded people, did anybody come up to you and tell you that what you were saying was inappropriate?
Not that I can recall. No.
I guess what you said was popular in that community.
It sure was. I can tell you that. But I don't want to talk to your counsel. I want to talk to you under oath. He was one of the people who helped write Obamacare. Then he went around the country selling it.
Nice gentleman from Utah, Mr. Shavitz. Thank the chairman. Mr. Gruber, you also did some work for the Congressional Budget Office, correct? The CBO?
I was on a CBO advisory council.
When did that start?
I don't exactly remember. It was probably
2007, correct?
Yeah, mid-2000s.
Yes. And how long, when did you stop working for the CBO?
I did not. I was on the advisory council until, I think, through 2008. I'm not entirely sure.
You mean 2011? Is that correct?
No, I did not go to meetings of the CBO advisory council.
Were you on the advisory council until 2011?
I honestly don't know when they took me off it, but I did not attend any meetings of the advisory council.
Were you on the CBO panel in 2010?
I did not attend any meetings of the CBO panel in 2010.
But you were part of that organization. Did you have any communications with the CBO? You didn't attend any meetings, but you did have communication. How many times did you how many times since President Obama took office did you go to the White House?
I don't recall exactly.
Was it more than 20?
No, it was not.
I believe it was more than 20. How many times do you think it was? Going to the White House is a significant event. You probably remember it. So
I made a number of visits to the White House, primarily to the Executive Office building, to meet with members of President Obama's staff.
Did you ever meet with the president?
I met with President Obama once during the discussion.
How long was that meeting?
It was a meeting that lasted maybe an hour and a half, of which, with about 20 people, I spoke for about 5 minutes.
Was Mr. Elmendorf there?
Yes, he was.
What was your capacity in that meeting?
It was a meeting of about 6 economic experts to talk to the president and his staff about options for healthcare cost control.
Were you there as a CBO member, or were you there as an administration member?
I was there as neither. I was there as an economic expert.
Well, somebody invited you there. You weren't. Somebody was paying you, correct?
No one paid me to be at that meeting. I was invited to be at that meeting, by the way.
We'll explore that a little bit more. Mr. Gruber, will you provide copies of all the work product you provided to the federal government related to the Affordable Care Act, healthcare.gov, or any other healthcare reform proposals?
Once again, if that's a request of the committee, they can take that up with my counsel. I'm sure that...
No. We're asking you, not your counsel. Counsel works for you. So we're asking you, under oath, will you provide this information to this committee?
Once again, if the committee can take it with my counsel, if it's a...
No. Mr. Gruber, we're asking you, you've been paid by the American taxpayers. Will you or will you not provide that information to this committee?
Once again, the committee can take it up with my counsel.
Mr. Chairman, this is something we have got to get to the bottom of. I think members on both sides of this aisle should demand that those documents, paid for by the American taxpayers, be part of the public record. What are you hiding? Why won't you give those to us? Why are we not entitled to those?
I'm not an expert on the rules of what's disclosed and what's not, but my counsel is, and he'd be happy to talk to the committee about it.
Why will you not give us those documents?
I've not included one way or another in the document.
Who owns those documents? Who paid for them?
I'm not sure.
You don't know who paid for those documents? Were you paid by the American taxpayer?
I had a technical contract with HHS to do microsimulation modeling.
Was there any work product to that? Did you actually come up with documents, have discussions?
Yes, I had a large number of discussions.
Will you provide copies of all the work product you provided to the state governments related to the Affordable Care Act, state state-based exchanges, or any other healthcare reform proposals?
Once again, the committee can take that up with my counsel.
Will you provide copies of your communication, including emails, memorandum, presentations, or any other discussions or conversations you had with federal or state officials or employees related to the Affordable Care Act, exchanges, or other healthcare reform proposals?
Once again, the committee can take that up with
I need a yes or no. I'm not interested in talking to your counsel. I'm interested right now, under oath, having been paid by the American taxpayers. Will you or will you not provide that information?
You can take it up with my counsel.
Why do you believe you're entitled to not give it to us?
I don't know the rules of how you produce documents, things like that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just an.
Do you have documents?
Do I own documents?
Do you have documents?
I have documents.
And you're not willing to give them to us?
I have all sorts of documents. I have a piece of paper in front of
me. Documents that relate to that I just asked you, Mr.
I have.
Do you not understand the question?
I perform grant work for the federal government. There was work product from that. I do not understand the rules under which product is supposed to be provided or not, because I'm a lawyer, and you can take that up with my counsel.
This is terribly frustrating, Mr. Chairman. We will, I hope, get some cooperation on both sides of the aisle to pursue this. Yield back.
I thank the gentleman, and Mr. Gruber, it does appear that you have progressed in your ability to be political. You answer questions better than any politician sitting at this dais today. And it's frustrating, and I would contend that your attorney is not giving you adequate representation this time. This committee to have information that has been requested. And you have progressed from not talking simply off the cuff and making stupid statements to now being entirely political, to the point that you're hindering us in carrying out our responsibility. I now recommend from...
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the chairman if this committee should consider a subpoena to compel the witness to provide this kind of information if he's not going to do it on a voluntary basis.
Well, I would recommend the gentleman to take that up with the committee chair, whose portrait hangs behind us. I certainly would concur with you, but I'm not going to step in the place of the full committee chair at this point. Thanks, gentlemen.
But yeah, I'm not gonna play you any more John Gruber videos, okay? Because John Gruber sat and called us all idiots, okay? And he got by with it. Not only did he get by with it, he got rich, okay? He got well paid by the American people.
Would say something completely different. I would say, no, these aren't mistakes on course there. This is intentional.
This is awful that all this stuff has been allowed to happen. And even now, after Obama's gone, he continues to, or not him, but like people who have the same beliefs as him continue to control these cities, allow this to happen. If I was a mayor, if I was a political figure, and it were up to me to allow a white supremacist group to come and march in my city, do you think I would allow that? Do you think I would allow somebody with that low a standard of beliefs to march in my city, down my beautiful streets? No, not for 1 second would I allow that. But these Democrat officials, they don't care to allow such as that. And there you heard that video a while ago. they continue to associate the white nationalists to those who elected Trump as president. Folks, there's just not that many people who are prejudiced in the United States, okay? Especially ones that are registered voters. Let's see what.
As you know, this was a small press conference, but a very important one, and it was scheduled to talk about the great things that we're doing with the Secretary on the Veterans Administration, and we will talk about that very much so in a little while, but I thought I should put out a comment as to what's going on in Charlottesville. So, again, I want to thank everybody for being here. In particular, I want to thank our incredible veterans, and thank you, fellas. Let me shake your hand. Great people. They're great people. But we're closely following the terrible events unfolding in Charlottesville, Virginia. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. It's been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America. What is vital now is a swift restoration of law and order and the protection of innocent lives. No citizen should ever fear for their safety in our society, and no child should ever be afraid to go outside and or be with their parents and have a good time. I just got off the phone with the governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, and we agreed that the hate and the division must stop right now. We have to come together as Americans with love for our nation and true affection, really, and I say this so strongly, true affection for each other. Our country is doing very well in so many ways. We have just absolute record employment. We have unemployment, the lowest it's been in almost 17 years. We have companies pouring into our country, Foxconn and car companies and so many others. They're coming back to our country. We're renegotiating trade deals to make them great for our country and great for the American worker. We have so many incredible things happening in our country. So when I watch Charlottesville, to me it's very, very sad. I want to salute the great work of the state and local police in Virginia, incredible people, law enforcement, incredible people, and also the National Guard. They've really been working smart and working hard. They've been doing a terrific job. Federal authorities are also providing tremendous support to the governor. He thanked me for that. And we are here to provide whatever other assistance is needed. We are ready, willing, and able. Above all else, we must remember this truth. No matter our color, creed, religion, or political party, we are all Americans first. We love our country. We love our God. We love our flag. We're proud of our country. We're proud of who we are. So we want to get the situation straightened out in Charlottesville, and we want to study it. And we want to see what we're doing wrong as a country where things like this can happen. My administration is restoring the sacred bonds of loyalty between this nation and its citizens. But our citizens must also restore the bonds of trust and loyalty between one another. We must love each other, respect each other, and cherish our history and our future together. So important. We have to respect each other. Ideally, we have to love each other. And now to the Veterans Administration, where I'm so proud of David Shulkin and the job you've done, what you've done in such a short period of time. I think you folks would attest to it. If anybody disagrees, you can leave the room right now. But David really has. He's a star, what he's been able to do. So, David, I'd like to thank you very much for your leadership and for the profound improvements to the VA services that you've made in such a short period of time. Today is another milestone in our work to transform the VA, where we're doing record-setting business, including something called the Accountability Act, where David and his executives can now hold people accountable for doing a poor job and say, you're fired. You do a poor job for our veterans, you're fired. That's been in the making for 40 years. They weren't able to get it approved. One of our legislative successes, frankly, one of our many legislative successes approved. And I know, David, it's making life a lot better, and people are working a lot harder because of it. In a few moments, I will sign the VA and Quality Employment Act 2017. This bill will ensure that veterans can have the ability to see the doctor, is so important, and wait or travel long distances here. And during the campaign, I kept talking about it. People, great, incredible veterans, our finest, they're waiting in line for 7 days, 9 days, 14 days, for ailments that could be fixed quickly, and they end up dying of things that could be taken care of very, very routinely. And I said, that's never going to happen when I'm president. And I said, even at the time, before having tremendous research given to me, and after the research was given, it was still back to the same basic common sense. Why can't they go out and see a doctor? If they have to wait 7 days or 4 days online, why can't they see a doctor? And we'll pay for the cost of the doctor. And that's going to be a lot less expensive, but more importantly, you're going to have immediate medical care for our veterans, and that's what we're doing. And they're very, very thankful. And it started already, quite a little while ago, considering we're a young administration. And I think you see from the veterans, they're very, very proud of it and very happy. Very importantly, this bill also authorizes new community outpatient clinics and improves the VA's ability to hire quality job candidates. We're getting candidates that are of the highest quality into the VA system now, so that our veterans have more choices and access to the absolute best possible care. I want to thank Congressman Phil Rowe, Johnny Isaacson. They two people have been working so hard. Senator Dean Heller, through Congress, was very, very tough for reasons that I guess I understand, but it was not easy. And I will tell you that Phil and Johnny and Dean worked very, very hard to get it through. And by the way, I can also say others, and even some Democrats. You want to say their names? Go ahead, say their names.
Senator Tester and Representative Walls were key in helping us get this done, Mr. President.
See, I can do it. But people fought, and they really fought us hard, and now the administration is fighting for you. We're working night and day to ensure our brave veterans are provided with world-class treatment, which is what they're getting, world-class treatment. And by the way, again, we're here for just a little more than 6 months. You're seeing it on a daily basis get better and better and better, and you're hearing it from the veterans. But they're getting this great medical treatment, care, procedures shaped up and made into world-class facilities at the same time. So our great veterans deserve only the best, and that's exactly what they're getting. I want to thank everybody for being here, especially the wonderful veterans behind me. They have helped us so much. They're spectacular people. And again, going back to Charlottesville, we have to heal the wounds of our country. These are wounds that have been going on for really a long time. And I thought, and everybody thought, and everybody wants it to heal. And it will heal. And we're going to make every effort possible to make sure that that healing procedure goes as quickly as possible. I love the people of our country. We're going to make America great again, but we're going to make it great for all of the people of the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, how do you respond to white nationalists who say they're participating in Charlottesville because they support you?
They'd like me to sign the bill here instead of outside, so I think we'll do that. Okay? Thank you. The question is, who's getting the pen? CBA. Who's getting the pen? Hang on. You folks argue about it, okay? Everybody listen. Ladies first, right? Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr.
President, a number of these white nationalists.
Mr. President, do you want the support of these white nationalists who say they support you, Mr. President?
Mr. President,
have you denounced them strongly enough?
A car colliding a group of people, would you call that terrorism, sir?
Again, folks, those white nationalists aren't the ones who voted for Trump, okay? We're lucky if those white nationalists voted at all, okay? They were probably Democrats. They probably voted for Hillary, okay? Really. But you see the media trying to link them.
A lengthy list of Republican officials took to Twitter to beseech President Trump to specifically call out the white supremacists. For these Republicans, it's clear the president's statement yesterday was far too vague. Senator Marco Rubio tweeted, "It's very important for the nation to hear the president describe events in Charlottesville for what they are, a terror attack by white supremacists." New Jersey Governor, quote, "We reject the racists like the ones acting out in Charlottesville. Everyone in leadership must speak out." Colorado Senator Cory Gardner, a Republican, wrote, "Mr. President, we must call even its name. These were white supremacists, and this was domestic terrorism." Those are just three of many. Now, President Trump's Homeland Security Advisor, Tom Bossert. Mr. Bossert, thanks so much for joining us. The president decried hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, But Republican officials, as you heard just there, did not think that was sufficient. On behalf of the White House, are you prepared to unequivocally condemn the white supremacists, racists, Nazis, and alt-right marchers?
Yeah, absolutely, I am, Jake. And let me start by thanking you here and taking a moment to pass my deep condolences and the White House's deepest condolences to the family and friends of the woman who was tragically killed yesterday, and to the family of fellow servicemen that served with the two police officers who died responding to this terrible violence yesterday. It needs to be said, to put this into context, this wasn't just some fighting. This turned into an unacceptable degree of violence at all levels, and ended in the most tragic way possible. And we have two police officers dead, part of the core backbone of the Homeland Security community. We all weep and pray for them. Sometimes these losses aren't noted enough in this political hyperbole. We have a young woman here that's passed away, and we have others critically injured. So let me start with that, and then let me answer your question. I think the President of the United States, and I appreciate the mayor yesterday and this morning talking to me, but earlier on your program here a moment ago saying this isn't about President Trump. This is about a degree of violence and of hatred that cannot be tolerated in this country. I, for one, was with the president yesterday and proud of the fact that he stood up and calmly looked into the camera and condemned this violence and bigotry in all its forms. This racial intolerance and racial bigotry cannot be condoned.
Well, you say that the president was clear in condemning this bigotry, but listen to this. This is from an infamous neo-Nazi website. Quote, Trump comments were good. He said he loves us all. Also refused to answer a question about white nationalists supporting him. No condemnation at all. When asked to condemn, he just walked out of the room. Really, really good. God bless him, unquote. Mr. Bossert, that's a neo-Nazi website celebrating how equivocal and vague the president of the United States was. Are you willing to at least concede that President Trump was not clear enough in specifically condemning white supremacy?
No, you know, the words of the ignorant bear little with me and should bear less with you. Unfortunately, they don't. And what I would say is that the president not only condemned the violence and stood up at a time and a moment when calm was necessary and didn't dignify the names of these groups and people, but rather addressed the fundamental issue. And so, Jake, what you need to focus on is the rest of his statement. The president didn't just call for human beings to respect one another, which is his pragmatist core, fundamental, bare minimum, but he called for, ideally, Americans to love one another, for all God's children to love one another. That is a fundamental assault on the very nature of the hatred that we're seeing here. And I guess you're going to continue to press on the words he didn't say, but I'd like you to focus for just a moment on the
Give me just a second, folks. I apologize for that loud bang there as my microphone fell. I was trying to adjust it a little bit and it fell. I apologize. I'll get it out of the way in just a second.
The kind of reputation of hatred that needs to be covered more. I think it's leadership.
Well, it's not really what I think. It's about what Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Cory Gardner and Senator Orrin Hatch and Senator Ted Cruz and Governor Chris Christie and Congressman Pete Sessions and on and on and on, what they think.
Yeah,
they have gone public making it clear that they don't think President Trump was enough in condemning white supremacists. So it doesn't really have any effect or bearing what I think. I'm asking you, all these Republican officials who want the president to succeed are saying this didn't go far enough.
Yeah, I think you should give yourself more credit because what you do think does invade and pervade the things you say on air and the things that you cover. I don't think that what you believe and what you think is important, as the president does as well. He believes all Americans should have a conversation and an open debate on this matter. This is unacceptable. This violence cannot stand. He made that clear yesterday. I think that the other statements that you've highlighted, Governor Christie and the other leaders in the party that you've quoted, have all said things similar. They've all denounced the violence, denounced the groups that showed up, and by the way, counter-protesters that showed up yesterday. This is the very challenge that confronted the mayor and his police officials, fire officials, the National Guard officials that were called out in advance. These were people who showed up intentionally looking for trouble. These weren't people that showed up to protest a statue. I'm sure there were good people in the group that had various opinions on the removal or maintenance of the statue. But what they found when they showed up were groups from outside that showed up on both sides, looking for trouble, dressed in riot gear, prepared for violence. It's not tolerated. It's not tolerable. I think what you saw is Republican unity in terms of denouncing it. And I think you saw the president stand up very clearly and not only denounce it, but rise to a presidential level of calling for a counter message of love and dignity and respect for fellow human beings.
How many people did the counter-protesters kill yesterday, Mr. Bossert?
Well, I'll tell you, one death is too many, Jake. And,
but that wasn't by the counter-protesters. The victim was a counter-protester. The victim was a counter-protester.
Hold on one moment, Jake. I don't for 1 minute. I don't for one moment. And I won't allow you for 1 second to put me in a position of being an apologist for somebody who is now a charged murderer. This individual should face swift justice. The President of the United States shares that view. I know he does. I share that view deeply, and I don't want to be put in a position, I won't allow you to put me or him in a position of not finding that justice as swiftly as possible.
You just
decried
both
sides.
Probably
for a moment.
You just decried both sides. Here we have a situation, Mr. Bosser, where neo-Nazis, the Klan, alt-right, and others went to Charlottesville, Virginia, chanting anti-Semitic, anti-African-American, and other racist slogans, provoking the people of Charlottesville, Virginia, making them feel intimidated. Yes, violence did break out. One person was killed by one of these alt-right Klan Nazi protesters, and you just decried both sides of this, and this is the issue.
No, I didn't, and you're making this issue a little bit distorted. So what I would decry is the individual that committed murder yesterday. What I would do, though, is quibble with this notion that any of this is acceptable. These groups showed up spewing hate. These groups showed up looking for violence.
What groups?
I think it's just important for people to understand.
What groups are you referring to?
Of course, the groups that showed up. Well, I refer to the groups that clashed yesterday. I think it was pretty graphically evident.
Are you talking about the neo-Nazis, or are you talking about the counter-protesters?
One of the things that I think the mayor will make clear to you, and probably stated earlier on your program, I know he and I talked about it this morning, was the difficulty he had in planning for this event. This was an event in which we anticipated.
They keep trying to link the fascist neo-Nazis to the Trump people, but they're not going to do it, folks. That's the mainstream media narrative that they're pushing now. Well, they've been pushing it for a while, actually.
Anticipated violence, in which he anticipated violence, in which there was violence being rehearsed and planned for in events that preceded the events of yesterday. I know the mayor and others sought relief in federal court to move this protest because they anticipated violence. I know the mayor and the governor acted very responsibly by calling up the National Guard in advance of yesterday's event. So I don't assign blame or assuage blame or try to press blame to different groups, Jake. The point I'm trying to make here is that what we saw yesterday was an unacceptable planned demonstration of violence. And what I would say is, with respect to murder, and I'm a little bit indignant over the way you phrased that, apologies if I took it the wrong way, but I place the blame most squarely and most directly on the murderer that's sitting, alleged murderer, if that's the driver of the vehicle. It's no question in my mind the driver of that vehicle acted with intent. If that is the driver of that vehicle, he is rightly accused of being a murderer. And I would one more point out that the Attorney General yesterday, after the President went on national television and pledged all the federal support that he could muster for this, and that was necessary, put out a press release last night that the U.S. Attorney and the FBI and the Attorney General are all pursuing this as a civil rights investigation. We'll see where the facts take us on all the people involved yesterday and on the driver of the vehicle. If that were to bear out with the facts, that could carry a much stiffer penalty. As I understand it, there's a second-degree murder charge now. If there's evidence to support the civil rights abuse or a hate crime abuse that investigation could lead to, that could carry a death penalty, is my understanding. So that's the appropriate and swift justice that I'd call for, and I won't condone any act of murder, and I certainly won't be put in a position of defending it.
I guess one of the issues that is being voiced by the Chris Christie's, Marco Rubio's, Orrin Hatches of the world is that there seems to be a moral equivalence being made here between the counter-protesters and the neo-Nazis, Klan members, and alt-right supporters. And there's this additional context, of course, to all of it. The president refusing to condemn white supremacists and David Duke on this very show a year and a half ago, his retweeting white supremacists, a top White House advisor, Steve Bannon, who said his former employer, Breitbart, was the platform of the alt-right. And take a listen to White House advisor Sebastian Gorka just this week telling Breitbart Radio that radical Islamic extremists are the only problem while white supremacists are not. Take a listen.
It's this constant, it's the white man, it's the white supremacist, that's the problem. No, it isn't.
Surely it's not the position of the Trump White House that white supremacists are not a problem.
Certainly not. I'm not certain the context of that Gorka quote. I can tell you that where I spend a great deal of my time and a great deal, unfortunately, of the American taxpayers' resources is combating a global jihadi terrorist problem that, Jake, as you know, has plagued the nation.
It's a huge issue, of course.
International problem.
Of course.
And it's something that we focus a great deal on. And in fact, we make difficult decisions every day in how to balance and rebalance the use of those resources to confront our enemies. We've got nation-state problems in North Korea, and we've got asymmetric terrorist global jihadi problems that have spread across the entire globe. And what we do is we try to apply those resources in a
get away from that, folks. But you see how the mainstream media continues to try to tie the Trumpers to the white nationalists. Yeah, whatever. Cover this article right here. Again, if you want to show that number 323-693-3320.
Broadcasting on Freedom Internet Radio is paid for by viewers like you. Without your support, we could exist. Freedom isn't free. That's why it's so important to support this broadcast and others like it. The mainstream media committed political suicide over the past 24 months. Let's bankrupt the vomit brokers and support free market capitalism. Remember, we don't push social and liberty worldwide.
Male prostitute, 26, dies of meth overdose at Hollywood home of high-profile Democrat donor. A 26-year-old man was found dead at the home of well-known Democratic Party donor late last month of a drug overdose. The incident occurred on June 27th around 7:22 p.m. at the West Hollywood home of Ed Buck, a high-profile political activist and wealthy contributor to the California and Los Angeles County Democratic Party. The Los Angeles County coroner declared Jamil Moore's death an accident due to a methamphetamine overdose, the WeHo Times publication reported. But Moore's family believes that foul play was involved in the hours between Jamil's arrival at Buck's home and his fatal overdose. During a phone interview with WeHo Times last week, Moore's mother, Letitia, said that her son had been in sex work for the past few years. I got one of my son's friends and was like, quote, "Who the hell is Edward Buck?" end quote. Nixon said, speaking from home in Spring, Texas. And my son's friend was like, quote, "That's that white guy, that wealthy white politician guy." He's like, quote, "Oh my God," end quote. A one-time registered Republican began getting in Southern California politics in the early 90s. Became a pioneering in computer technology, significantly in electronic information services in Arizona but moving to Los Angeles. He was also a candidate for a councilman seat in West Hollywood and a prominent AIDS activist in the community, according to a smartvote.org profile in 2007. During Nixon's conversation with her son's friend, a picture of Moore's life began to emerge, with Buck allegedly playing a role. Quote, when he calmed down, he told me that Ed Buck was one of my son's clients and that Ed Buck was one of his clients as well, Nixon said, end quote. Buck, who have my son to go out to Santa Monica Boulevard looking for young gay black guys so he could inject drugs, see their reaction and how they would react and take pictures of them. A phone call placed to Buck for comments immediately notified her that no drug or paraphernalia was found at Buck's home following her son's death. An unidentified source who claims that he and Jamel Moore shared Buck as a client times that the councilman who supplied them with drugs. Into one account, the anonymous source said that Buck asked him if we'd ever slammed a street term into meth use. I told him no, and that would take more money, the source said, describing Buck's reaction as excited, adding he seemed to get off on getting you higher and higher. Nixon told the WeHo Times that her son troubles may have had their start over a year ago, and he gave her a call in panic. You can find this article up at dailymail.co.uk if you want to check it out. But y'all, thanks for tuning in. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.